last week was very busy in harvesting. Everything is ripening all at the same time, which is normal for this time of the year. So I started out harvesting peppers, and I didn't have enough jalapenos to do a complete batch of cowboy candy just using jalapenos. So I mixed up my peppers and threw banana peppers and some cayenne peppers in with it. This recipe is really good, but it does use a ton of sugar. It is 12 cups. So I will link the directions on how to make this step by step at the end of this video. But we like to use this on things like loaded baked potatoes, on top of chili, or even in side salads as well. And it does leave you with a good bit of brine at the end. So you can either can the brine in quarts and use it again whenever you have enough peppers to make cowboy candy with, or I like to do this occasionally, and I will hard boil eggs. And what I will do is use this brine that is left to pickle my eggs in. And this is just a really good way to not have any waste at the end of the day. I already have some brine left in quarter pints from last year, which is really good to use when making things like egg salad. But when you're left with a lot of it, making pickled eggs with this brine, I'm telling you, you can't go wrong with this recipe. I ended up getting 4 pints of the cowboy candy, and then I also did a couple more jars of the caramelized onions as well. I didn't film that, but it ended up being a good day for preserving. The next day we harvested a ton of basil, which needed harvested and picked because it was so abundant. And I like to make and freeze pesto. When I do this, I use walnuts instead of pine nuts because they're more inexpensive than the pine nuts. And these freeze really well in quarter pints, and then I can pull them out and use them with gnocchi. Next up were our green beans, and you guys, the rain that we had from Hurricane Debbie is exactly what our garden needed to start producing green beans. And it was enough for me to get 7 quarts, and some of the beans were a little too large and I couldn't use, but for the most part, they were relatively a decent size. And I don't do anything special with my beans. I just trim both of the ends off. If there's a string on them, I pull the string out, snap them into pieces, and then I go ahead and do the raw pack method of canning. Now, you do not need to use salt whenever you're canning your beans. I always do because I feel it enhances the flavor of them. I always use a 1-inch headspace when packing, and I will come in with hot water that I have simmering on the stove and just pour over top of these. Now, they do need to be pressure canned. I do not believe in water bath canning beans or any type of vegetable, and I did have enough to freeze. Our tomatoes are flourishing once again. We had leftovers, so I put them in the roaster and drained the juice off. I got an additional 4 quarts of tomato juice, which is great if you are making soup or chili for over the winter months. And then I just used the rest of the tomatoes just to make a basic sauce. And I ended up getting 8 pints of tomato sauce out of that batch, which will be good for making spaghetti sauce or any type of pasta dish for over the winter.